Assalamu alaikum, welcome everyone, it's Mr. Kamal Taisi speaking. We still talk about the kingdoms of life. As you know, we have more than 1.7 million different kinds of creatures in our earth. We have a lot, and the scientists use some methods to classify these organisms. Don't be confused when we classify organisms and when we are speaking about the 6 kingdoms that we have. We have level to classifying organisms: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. That is the 7 levels to classify organisms. But in other hand, we have 6 kingdoms: bacteria, archaea, protists, fungi, plants, and animals. As you see here, when we move to the right, all the organisms will be more complex. Okay, the organisms here will be more complex. For example, guys, if we talk about the nucleus here, as you know, guys, for the nucleus, we have here bacteria who don't have a nucleus, and archaea also doesn't have a nucleus, and protists have a nucleus. Fungi, plants, animals, all of them have a nucleus. Because that when we move to the right, the organisms will be more complicated. Okay, what about another thing like the number of cells? If you talk about the number of cells, bacteria just 1 cell, and this one also 1 cell, but some of the protists have just 1 cell, and fungi also some of them have 1 cell like yeast, but all the plants have a lot of the cells, and also the animals have a lot of cells. Okay, guys, now that is the 6 kingdoms. As you see here, when we move to the right, the organisms will become more complicated. Okay, today we'll focus on the plants. What about the plant kingdoms? How the scientists will classify them? How much plants do we have? And we will speak about that more. As you know, we have more than 400,000 different kinds of plants. We have a lot. How the scientists can classify them? And we have some of them will be small, some another have a flower, some of them live on the desert, some another live on the windy places or like that, and some another have a fruits and flowers, some another doesn't have fruit or flowers, have something else called spores, some another will be very tall like skyscrapers. Now, how the scientists can classify all of these different kinds of plants? Okay, now the first way to classify the plant by their structure. When I speak about the structures, I mean the plant parts. Okay, the plant, of course, you know that the plant have stem, or most plants have stem, leaves, and roots. Okay, and each part of them have some jobs or some functions to do. But that is most of plants, but not all plants like that. You can see that the plants have, some plants have a flower, some another doesn't have flowers. Anyways, now the first way to classify the plants by their structures. Okay, now by this way, the plants have leaves, stems, and roots. They are a lot, and you can see them all of the day. Okay, and most of the plants will be like that. But in fact, some of you don't know that we have some another kind of plant doesn't have roots, stem, and leaves. Okay, yeah, don't have that. Yeah, there are some plants will be like that. Like what? Like wort plant. Yeah, that's kind of plant called wort plant. That is the kind of plant doesn't have root, stem, and leaves. Okay, and have another structure like that. And also we have another kind called mosses. Okay, called mosses. Yeah, this is the mosses plant. That is the mosses plant. Okay, this also very small plant, and it will grow up close of the ground. Okay, but the question here, someone asked me how these plants can absorb the water without roots and without real leaves and stems and like that. Okay, as you see here, guys, at the beginning, this is the green plants. These plants can make their own food like the real plants. Because that we will put both of them on the same kingdom, on the plant kingdom. But here, this plant will be very, very small. Okay, not like the tall plants. Why they are small, and how they can absorb the water? Okay, now these plants will absorb the water like a sponge. At the beginning, this mosses plant, for example, this one will grow up close of the ground. Can you see that? It will grow up close of the ground or close of the soil. Okay, it's not gonna be tall, it will be very small. Okay, because that it will absorb the water directly from the soil. Okay, doesn't need tubes to absorb a lot of water up. Okay, it will be very close from the ground. Do you know, like what? Like sponge. If we have a sponge and this sponge, it will be close of the ground, and you have some water under here, okay, or under this sponge here, or below the sponge here, the sponge will absorb all of the water directly, right? The same thing will happen with this plant, with the moses plant. Yeah, the moses plant will absorb the water directly from the ground without roots or without tubes inside it to absorb water. Doesn't need it. Okay, yeah, this is the way to absorb the water, and that is another kind of plant. Doesn't have roots, leaves, and stem. But be careful, this plant can make their own food, because that we will put with plants. Let's go for another way the scientists use to classify the plant. Okay, part of the second way to classify the plants by their seeds. It means what? We have some plants have seeds. Like what? Like these very lovely flower plants called viola plants. Okay, this one of course have roots, stem, and leaves, and also have seeds and the flower and fruits. Most of the plants, take it guys, it's a rule. Most of plants have a flower. Okay, it should to be have a fruit. Okay, should to be have a seeds inside it. Most of the plants will be like that. Most of the plant, a flower, if this plant have a flower, have a fruits after that, have a seeds inside the fruit, inside the fruits. Do you know why? Because of the cycle. Because of the cycle. Now, what is the job for these seeds? When we put the seeds on the ground or on the soil, okay, it will grow up to make another plants. And after that, this plant will make a flower, and this flower will make fruit. Okay, will make fruit, and this fruit have a seeds inside, and the seeds will make a plant. Plant have a flower, flower have a fruit, fruit have a seeds, and like that, guys, because of the cycle of the plant. And we will take in another session, inshallah. But here, the seeds will be very important for the plant to make another plant. Okay. The seeds, it's very important for the plants, because the plants will use seeds for reproduction to make another plants. Okay, as you see here, guys, here we have the seeds for the apples, and the seeds for apples will be inside something like hole inside the apple. This hole called core. Okay, and we will speak about that in another session, inshallah. But because that's with us in our session now, the seeds inside the core. Anyways, now let's talk about another plant doesn't have seeds. Okay, the plants don't have seeds, have another things called spores. Okay, like what? Like horsetail. The horsetail, as you see here, like like the tail of the horse. If you look over for the tail of the horse, okay, it will be approximately like that. Okay, yeah, it will be very tall, and this one have this stem and the leaves. The leaves will look like the horsetail. Okay, as you see here, guys, this plant have a stem and leaves, and also have roots. Okay, but not all plants have stem, roots, and leaves should to be have a seeds. No, this plant doesn't have a seeds. This plant have spores, have another things called spores. What is the spores? If you look over this picture do we have here, that is the spores. The spores, it will be at the bottom of the leaves. Okay, and we will speak about that also in another sessions, inshallah. But by the way, now the spores, as you see here, it will be very small, and the spores will be inside the spore case. Inside this spore case we have very small spores, and also the plant will use these spores to reproduction, to reproduce, to make another plants. Okay, that is the spore case, and inside it we have spores. Okay, guys. Now, both spores and seeds, both of them used to reproduction, but spores will be very small, and seeds, it will be bigger than spores. And also the seeds inside the fruit, but spores will be outside in the down of the leaves, okay, in down parts of the leaves. Okay guys, yeah, that is this part. Spoke about the classification of the plants. In another session inshallah we'll take a closer look for the plants to understand more about it. Thanks a lot for sharing with me this session, and hope you understand. If you have any question, you can ask me in the comments. See you next time inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.